Where we're at.
Okay, thanks for resuming, councillors. Okay, so
Where we're at.
yeah. So where we're at is we have a recommendation before us. Thanks. Do I have an alternative motion? Councillor Whitfield.
Sorry, I was on mute. Just a point of clarity, Madam Mayor. I believe the recommendation before us is for the materials recycling application, and if it's appropriate, I would like to move that item be deferred until the next council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. So as we have not made a decision on the previous report that was tabled, we will now bring both of these back to council for a decision at the next September council meeting.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Sorry to interrupt. We've had myself a mover and a seconder. No one's spoken on the motion of deferring, and we would need to show a show of hands.
Yep. All right. That's fine. We'll continue with that.
So,
Councillor Rowe.
Madam Mayor, why would you want to defer this? We should be making a decision on this application as well.
Well, what we'll do is we'll go into debate and we can debate this. Yeah, for sure. All right. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor. As this application is connected to the previous application, and the status of that is now a bit up in the air, it would be unfair of us to make a decision on this application, knowing that it well could affect what the applicant's intent of it was. Yes, I believe that one permit application is hand in hand with the other. To approve it now might be defunct depending on what happens with the other application.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Nothing else to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Appreciating the opening comments there from Councillor Whitfield. I am in disagreement with that and feel that we need to keep pushing on with this. Each application is taken on its own merit, regardless of another application. We need to assess this on its merit here tonight. Fair to say that we are we've set ourselves up here very, very poorly with having not made a decision on the previous item. The applicant who has put in this application has put a submission in for a $6 million investment into our region. Will no doubt be heading off straight to VCAT, or I'd make that assumption. So given we have not made a decision on that, I don't see it fit that the applicant now has to wait another 30 days for us to come back to discuss this item. If councillors have made a position on the first item, they should be able to make a position on the second item. And if that's for or against, so be it. But we are here, councillors. They're not easy decisions, but we are elected members to make decisions. Appreciating Councillor Whitfield's comments, and also appreciating that we did not make any decision one way or another on the last item. I think that we need to debate and discuss this item on its own single merit and soldier on.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for it? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against? Councillor Rowe.
Madam Mayor, I think we need to make a determination tonight, and we should probably debate this particular item. I think, you know what I mean, to be fair to the applicant.
Fair enough, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone else who'd like to be part of the debate? Anyone who'd like to speak for or against? If not, we will take a vote. Councillor Gamble.
I'm happy to support this application for this part of the for this materials recycling. And
Madam Mayor, point of order. We're still. I'm yet to close the debate on my motion of deferral.
Oh, okay. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, I put this forward on this short notice, trying to position the applicant in the best space for them. Listening to the debate, I believe it could be the agenda item application could be decided on without deferring it. Whether that has repercussions on the applicant or not is probably correct. It should be just decided on. So yes, I've been swayed, even though I moved that motion. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that.
You can. Yep. So if you're happy to remove your amendment, we can. All right. So what we can do is go, if you
just vote on it, I think.
If,
Madam Mayor, you do have a mover and a seconder, so you need to now determine on that that motion that's
being put forward. Yes. All right. So all those in favour?
I think I have to stay in favour.
You don't. All those against? Carried. Okay, we will now go back to the original recommendation. So we do have some public presentations, if they would still like to speak. Mr. Jack Cran.
I'm just letting him into the, yeah, he's in now.
Okay. Are you there, Mr. Cran, if you'd like to speak on behalf of your application?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it more appropriate that the matter be deferred for the time being. I don't have any instructions from my client with respect to the previous application and whether to continue with this one.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cran. Items, objector, Carolyn Morton.
No, not in the room. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. And we also, Joe and Maxine Argento.
Madam Mayor, also not in the room.
Okay, so we do have a letter to read out. Please be advised that we object to the planning application P20426 for a permit to use and development of the land for the purpose of materials recycling pursuant to the provisions of the Farming Zone Clause 35.07-1 and 35.07-4 of the planning scheme at lots 1 and 2, 1115 and 1185 Shelford, Mount Mercer Road, Shelford. We believe the proposed development threatens to impose an adverse impact on the amenity of the area in which we live and work, with concerns of issues of noise, dust, increased traffic on road and visual impact. We thought this area was zoned farming, not industrial. With increased noise and dust from a semi-enclosed structure without any form of insulation to soundproof, which would not contain the noise and dust, and working 12 hours a day with an excavator, mulcher, tub grinder, blower, and we would have thought a dust extractor. We feel the shedding is inadequate for this purpose. Having observed this equipment on YouTube, it is quite audible and dusty and would require soundproofing and fully enclosed shed. Has a noise pollution analyst and monitoring has monitoring been done? We will no longer have any quality of life. Extra use of power. We are experiencing brownouts now from this very old line and had no power on the 5th of the 2nd, 2021 for over 2 hours. Blackouts occur quite frequently out here, and then we will have more noise from generators. How large are these machines, as it does not seem to be mentioned in the application to be used for 12 hours a day? We've been advised that the wood shredding will be powered by solar panels and batteries when the sun shines, and then we'll rely on diesel generators. Will this generate enough power for 12 hours of shredding? Has the noise pollution analysis and monitoring been carried out? Extra concerns for fire with dust build-up on hot machinery in a very windy area. How much timber is required for enough deep litter for 8 broiler sheds? Will this timber contain lead paint, arsenic and other contaminants? How many trucks will be required to deliver this timber down a gravel track? How will the litter be transferred from the shed to the broiler shed? More dust and noise from machinery. As there does not seem to be a code for this, not see how the proposal described in the planning application P20426 could be acceptable to the environment in which we both work and live. Yours faithfully, Joe and Maxine Argento. Okay, councillors, we have a motion before us, the recommendation that council resolves to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit P20426 for the use and development of the land for the purpose of materials recycling and associated buildings and works at 115 Shelford, Mount Mercer Road, Shelford, subject to the conditions attached to this report.
Madam Mayor, just a point of clarification. And I'm not too sure if the gentleman here on behalf of the applicant is aware that I know his comments was that he wanted to seek clarification, but council has made a decision that we are looking to make a decision on this. So I probably would have appreciated his comments on it. We are making a decision one way or another here, so I'm just not too sure whether the gentleman on behalf of the applicant was aware of that, or did he forgo his rights to speak on it?
Well, I think he forego his rights because at the same time, we have moved back into the original recommendation. So that's where we're sitting at the moment, Councillor Sharkey. So we have a motion before us. Do I have a mover? Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Sharkey. Do I have a seconder? If we have no seconder, it fails for the lapses for the want of a seconder. Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Again, this application that is before us is an extensive application, and there's a considerable amount of time and effort put into this application. It has gone through our planning department. It has gone through great scrutiny on behalf of all of our officers. And a recommendation has come before us. This recommendation that's before us speaks volumes. Again, having gone and referred to the authorities, it does fall within the planning scheme, Madam Mayor, and I think that we should be encouraging economic development like this in our Shire to help ratepayers in the Shire. Appreciating some of the comments of the objectors. Again, I think the comments from the objectors and the points raised have been clarified, have been referred off to the respectful authorities. The conditions applied to it there should help mitigate some of those issues from objectors. But Madam Mayor, I am fully supportive of the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, this application as a standalone proposal does meet the requirements for a permit use in the farm zone. It will add minorly towards the economy, but definitely recycling is something that is a terrific aspect about this proposal. I've asked some questions behind the scenes in regard to items such as fire risk with the storage of raw materials and the litter created, etc. I'm mindful that the site management plan submitted in regards to that outlines measures to reduce the risk of fire, including provision of fire extinguishers and water tanks for firefighting purposes, and the bunding and hard stand areas around the facility also decrease the risk of fire spread. Yes, I believe it's a worthy proposal. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any councillor who would like to speak against the motion? Is there any councillor who would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Rowe, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Look, listen, as has been mentioned before, there's a recommendation here before us tonight. I think the complaints in relation to noise, dust, etc., have been addressed. This also is a permitted use in the farming zone. And I'd just like to say, this will complement the broiler farm in relation to wood shavings and chips to use within those sheds, if that broiler farm gets approval. So for that reason, I'm in favour of the recommendation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble?
Yes, I feel that many of the objections I raised against the previous motion doesn't apply with this proposal. So I'm prepared to support this part of the venture in terms of it's creating a useful product that's potentially be able to sold and used to nearby farms as a loan project in itself if the applicant wishes to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any other councillors who would like to speak for or against? If not, I'll ask Councillor Sharkey to close the debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. With no councillors speaking against this motion, I'm happy to see it go straight to a vote.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. I will now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? It's carried. Thank you, councillors.
I call for a division, please, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Division called. All those for the motion? Councillor Whitfield, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Sharkey, Councillor Gamble, and Councillor Kirby. And those against? Councillor Getson and Councillor Cunningham. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.4, P20370, Lot 1 and 3, 1805 Rokewood, Shelford Road, Rokewood, for the use and development of land for an extractive industry. I'll now move this on to Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to a planning permit application for use and development of the land for extractive industry under clause 35.07-1 in the farming zone, which is carrying out of works associated with the section 2 use under clause 35.07-4, use and development of the land for earth and energy resource industry under clause 52.08-1, and alteration to access in a road zone category 1 under the RDZ1. Excuse me. The application has been referred to council meeting for a position because there are 4 objections to the application. Objectors have cited matters including impact on catchment, cultural heritage concerns and the lack of a cultural heritage management plan, impact on bulgur breeding, impact on surrounding roads, impact on nearby dwellings, impact on agricultural activity from the proposed use, visual impact, access inadequate from Rokewood Shelford Road, noise and traffic management. It should be noted that consideration of this matter will result in council forming its position in relation to the application rather than resolving to issue a notice of decision, because an appeal has been lodged by the applicant to VCAT under section 79 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, excuse me, which is against council's failure to grant a permit within the prescribed statutory timeframe of 60 days. Council received a VCAT order dated 10th of June of this year that outlines the application as being listed at VCAT for a compulsory conference on the 6th of October 2021 and is also listed for a major cases hearing on the 8th and 9th of December 2021. Council is required to form a position prior to these hearing dates. Councillors have also been provided with a full copy of the application and objections for consideration prior to forming a position. The subject site is located on the south side of Rokewood Shelford Road on the corner of Bells Road with a total area of 353.16 hectares. The site has been used for agricultural purposes and contains minimal treed vegetation. There is a dwelling and some shedding in the northwest corner of the site, which is bound by Bells Road to the west and Rokewood Shelford Road to the north, which is on a road zone category 1, Regional Roads Victoria Managed Road. Should be noted a planning permit was issued for this site on the 12th of November 2020, which allows for the use and development of the land for a service station and creation of access to a road zone category 1. The title has a registered section 173 agreement, which restricts any further subdivision and the development of more than one dwelling. There are no other restrictions on the land. The application seeks planning approval to use and develop the subject land for extractive industry in accordance with the work plan endorsed by the Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions, the Earth Resources Regulation section, which was provided following no objections to that endorsement by the Department of Environment, Water, Land and Planning. In conclusion, following a detailed assessment as per the report, the application satisfies the provisions of the state and local policy frameworks, the farming zone, clause 52.08 and clause 52.09, and the decision guidelines of the planning scheme under clause 65. Appropriate permit conditions have been recommended and it is therefore considered the council can form a position of support. I'd like to add that since the report was published, the applicant has requested a number of changes to the conditions, 3 in total. Officers have reviewed and believe only one change is merited, being the proposed condition 12C. The current condition states that the crushing and screening train and the rock breaker must not commence operation until the pit is established over a sufficient area to the full depth of the pit to accommodate the processing plant and rock breaker on the floor level of the pit. The applicant argued that this was impractical and the proposed amendment to the condition supported by officers is prior to excavation of the pit to its full depth and a sufficient area to accommodate the processing plant and rock breaker on the floor level of the pit, measures must be employed, including temporary earthen bunds adjacent to the temporary processing plant area to ensure compliance. So therefore, the recommendation is that council resolves to form a position of support for the application P20370, which seeks the use and development of the land for extractive industry and alteration of access from a road zone category 1 at 1805 Rokewood Shelford Road, Rokewood, subject to conditions attached to the report with the amended edition 12C as I've mentioned. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director Josipovic. Is there any questions, councillors? No questions. If not, we'll move into public presentations. So do we have Mr. Adam Walton, the objector, in the gallery?
Yes, we do. He's just joining now.
Thank you.
They may be able to hear us. I'm not sure if their screens are there.
Yep, here we go. Good evening.
Right to go?
Yep, good to go. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. We assume everyone's read our detailed submissions, and this verbal submission is just it really is a summary. We strongly object to the proposed quarry on Bells Road. We note in Council's agenda it suggests that no abutting properties object to the proposal. We're right over a single lane road from it and we strongly object. We find this very misleading by the author of this report. The negative impacts on our family and business are massive and very unreasonable. We have had an approved planning permit issued to us by the Shire for us to construct a dwelling on our land, and that is what we intend to do, to house either farm workers presently or family members in the longer term. The proposed quarry is approximately 100 metres from our approved home site, and current regulations state this needs to be 500 metres. The Shire cannot possibly approve the quarry 100 metres from our approved house site that they themselves approved not long ago. We note with interest the approved dwelling site is not included in any of the council reports. The Shire, through its lawyers, have asked us to change the wording of our issued permit from a dwelling to a worker's cottage. This suggests to us that a farm worker and their family should not be entitled to the same amenity as anyone else. This, to us, is discriminatory and far from acceptable for a Shire to suggest such a thing. The quarry application refers a lot to the proposed wind farm as its reason to be developed. When the Victorian Minister approved the plans for the wind farm some years, 2 to 3 years ago, he was quoted from his report, which I quote now. In my assessment, the inclusion of an on-site quarry is a key part of the project, which will significantly reduce the volume of off-site traffic and the risks of potential damage to local road infrastructure. The local roads were designed and constructed many years ago, initially to carry kilograms per acre from farms. Now they are carrying tonnes per acre, and the roads are in terrible condition, to say the least. I mentioned Bells Road, Geggies Road, Wingiel Road, Rokewood Shelford Road, Cresty Shelford Road, Warrook Road and Gumley Road as being the most impacted local roads should the quarry be approved. I note that the director there earlier just really spoke about the Rokewood Shelford Road being the main road, and I understand it's a Vic Roads road, but every one of those other roads is a local road which shires need to maintain. With the potential for a massive wind farm to be constructed, a potential quarry on Bells Road, and another quarry that has just been submitted for application on Geggies Road, these local roads have no ability to cater for the massive increase in traffic movements. Federal and state governments, courts and tribunals look at projects individually. We urge the Shire to look at the cumulative impacts of many projects and the impacts it will have on the local area. This is what local councils should do, as no one else looks at the total impacts of these projects joined together. There is the potential for a wind farm construction traffic, wind farm quarry traffic to go on top of the current farming traffic. When the quarry was doing its exploratory work last year, the noise from within our home, not outside our home, from within our home was unbearable. This is some 800 metres from the proposal. The Wind Farm Commissioner recommends noise limits to homes should not exceed 35 decibels at a dwelling. The quarry report suggests it can operate at 46 decibels, some 11 decibels higher than what the Wind Farm Commission suggests is acceptable. The exclusion zone for blasting extends well into our property, as can be seen from the report. The report also suggests that fly rock, so basically uncontrolled blast rock, will enter our property. If this does not suggest that the proposal is too close to our property, then I'm not sure what does. In final summary, we strongly believe this quarry application should be refused as it cannot contain pollution within its own boundary buffers, and it will cause massive impacts to the local roads and neighbouring landholders. We have a planning permit to build a dwelling on our farm, and it was approved by the Golden Plains Shire before the quarry application was submitted. If the council unfortunately does decide to approve this quarry, it is essential to the amenity and safety of the neighbouring landholders that it is moved back to within its own property boundary. At least 500 metres from our house is required by law. So its pollution then can be contained within the boundaries and it does not encroach on our land. Happy to take any questions.
Sorry, you just froze at the end there, Adam, could you just repeat what you said? Sorry.
At
Just the last sentence.
The last sentence. So
Yes.
we have a planning permit to build a dwelling on our farm that was approved by the Golden Plains Shire before the quarry application was submitted. If the council does unfortunately decide to approve the quarry, it is essential to the amenity and safety of neighbouring landholders that it is moved well back within its own boundaries and at least 500 metres from our house as required by law. So its pollution remains within its boundary and does not encroach on our land. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Walton. Any questions, councillors? No questions. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Can I ask you, Adam, what was the date of the approval of that permit for the dwelling, please?
I could find it. It's actually in our application. Like the dates are all there.
Yep.
If you want to give me 5 seconds, Cal will be able to find it here somewhere.
That would have been last year at some stage.
Correct. Yeah. Application submission. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions, councillors, while we're just waiting?
Yeah, we know that. There we go. Yeah, it's here. So our plan, sorry, can I speak now?
Yes, yep.
Yep. So our permit was issued to us on the 6th of July 2000. Yep.
Thanks very much, Adam.
Is there any other councillors who would like to ask a question of Mr. Walton? If not, thank you for your time. Thank you, Adam, for your time.
Thank you.
We have another objector, Mr. Russell Code. Is he in the waiting room?
Hang on, sorry.
No, we don't have Mr. Code.
No,
okay.
Russell Code, sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Russell Code, yes.
Just joining now.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Code, you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm not, oh, it's on mute, is it? No, it's not on mute.
No, you're right now. Yep.
Sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Code.
Oh, here I am. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity. As discussed in my earlier submission, I talked briefly on my life in the Shire and our family and some of the issues that I felt might deserve consideration in approving this or this quarry application. And I don't want to dwell on that too much. You've probably all seen them as well. And reading through the meeting agenda and the full report declared by Phil, I just like to highlight, and without dwelling on too much, highlight some of the municipal planning strategy that has come up through there, which I think relates significantly to this quarry and the importance of agriculture generally in the area. So I'll just quickly highlight some of those points, and if you can bear with me. From the municipal planning strategy, it states that the Shire is characterised by agricultural land use, predominantly grazing and cropping, as well as other activities, including intensive animal industries and wind farms. Council's vision to sustainably manage land use and development within the Shire, including growing the local economy, particularly in township development and rural-based farming industries. The objective to protect community amenity, health and safety. And some of those objective strategies are ensure that the use of development of land is compatible with adjoining and nearby land uses. To encourage sustainable agricultural land use, and strategies include ensure agricultural and productive rural land use activities are managed to maintain the long-term sustainable use and management of existing natural resources, and to facilitate the establishment of cattle feedlots, pig farms, poultry farms, and the like. The primary purpose of the farming zone is to provide for the use of land for agriculture. Council must consider the decision guidelines contained in the farming zone, which include the following matters. And really that is whether the site is suitable for the development and whether the proposal is compatible with adjoining nearby land uses. And just getting back to the applicant or the application, it talks about the lifespan of 50 plus years for the quarry. Some of my concerns are how can such a site be remediated to agriculture where such a large volume of materials have been extracted or removed. Obviously, it creates a very large hole, or and would hold obviously a lot of water. But I don't think there's enough detail around how such a significant industry or extraction process can be successfully remediated without some form of materials being relocated or filled in. The application highlights to the significance of the rural road funding, or the road frontage to this site, which is obviously the Shelford Cressy Road, which is a Vic Road road, probably only just suitable. But there's no further direction as to where or where these particular trucks are going to dispense or travel to in the removal of the product out of the road. And Adam's already mentioned the state of some of those adjacent roads, and I think some of the councillors were pretty who visited the site last week were pretty gobsmacked by the state of a couple of those roads, and particularly Bells Road, Gigi's Road. They are in a deplorable state. So yeah, look, I think that concludes my presentation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Code. Councillors, is there any questions for Mr. Code? Thank you for submitting tonight, Mr. Code. Thank you. Our next speaker is Andrew Natoli on behalf of the applicant. Welcome, Andrew.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to address you on this application. Can I just say I intend to address you broadly on the merits of the proposal. I'm happy to respond to any questions on the detail at the conclusion of my brief submission. What I would like to first, sorry, my name is Andrew Natoli. I'm a planning lawyer. I act for Little River Earth Moving. and I've had carriage of the permit application. Can I just say, I'd submit that the delegate report provides a thorough and balanced assessment of this proposal, and the councillors should be confident in relying upon that assessment. In terms of the subject land, it's a large rural farming allotment situated in an area used for a range of agricultural activities. It's the quarry will provide access to a high quality and much needed basalt resource. It will facilitate the expansion of a local family business with associated employment and economic benefits. The quarry will supply materials to local markets and projects, most notably the Golden Plains Wind Farm project in the form of road base and aggregates. And it will facilitate the development of this important project. Its siting and design incorporates significant buffers. Projects, local markets and projects, most notably the Golden Plains Wind Farm. Sorry, did I just cut out then?
Yes, you have.
Yeah, I apologise. I think I may have pressed the spacebar. The siting and design of the proposed quarry incorporates significant buffers and will not ensure it will not cause any adverse, unreasonable amenity impacts to adjoining and nearby properties. The endorsed work plan includes numerous technical reports and contains a range of safety and environmental controls to address the potential for impacts on the surrounding area. These controls include extensive noise, dust, sediment control and stormwater runoff provisions and requirements. The quarry will not impact on any native vegetation or rare species of flora or fauna. The DELP have confirmed the land is devoid of native vegetation. There are measures recommended to address potential brolga nesting sites, with the nearest being more than 2 kilometres away. Surface water and flood risk assessment confirms the catchment will not be impacted. Measures are in place to address any runoff from the quarry to ensure that it doesn't enter the Mia catchment. There will be no unreasonable visual amenity impacts due to owing to the nature of the topography of the area, which is basically flat or undulating. There is a significant vegetation screening proposed as part of the quarry's development. There's appropriate vehicular access, which will be primarily through the site to the south for internal roads to service the Golden Plains Wind Farm. Otherwise, access will be from the main road, Rokewood-Shelford Road, not Bell Road. The quarry will be progressively rehabilitated and returned to agricultural production for general farming activities associated with the landowner's business. And that'll occur progressively over its lifetime. There is no requirement for a CHMP, as you've been advised by the officers, and we agree with that assessment. Overall, this quarry and this site is ideally suited for the quarry in a policy strategic sense. The farming zone is highly supportive of quarries, as well as state policy that supports extractive industry uses, especially where they can demonstrate they won't impact adversely on existing sensitive uses or environmental values. I can say in my own experience, this site is not a problematic site. The work plan will more than capably be able to address and adjust its operations to address any concerns. In relation to the permit conditions, we've raised some issues and we're grateful that they've been addressed. In response, there are a couple of remaining concerns regarding the prohibition of blasting, but we can, during breeding season for the brolgas, but we believe we can address these with officers. In relation to Mr. Walton's comments about his approved dwelling, I'd just like to stress that it's approved. In terms of your assessment, councillors, you are to consider existing sensitive uses. That dwelling is, I understand, only partially constructed. It's not an existing sensitive use. In any event, the quarry and its work plan covers a reasonably large area. There are measures in that work plan to ensure that any sensitive uses, if they do emerge in the future, will not be impacted, irrespective of what you decide tonight. In terms of the planning regime, environmental EPA controls are there independently to ensure dwellings are not impacted. And there's requirements in the endorsed work plan, which DJPR has endorsed, which will ensure that those impacts are always monitored. And if necessary, the operations will be adjusted, because DJPR has that flexibility to direct quarry operators to adjust their operations to changing circumstances. And that's an important thing for councillors to consider, because a planning permit does tend to lock things in stone, but a work plan, which contains all the necessary operational measures, can be adjusted over time to suit changing circumstances. And in the current circumstances, there is no dwelling, no sensitive use that's commenced across Bells Road at this time, but I would submit to you that the operation, if that use does commence, can adequately respond and protect that use. Thank you, councillors.
You're on mute, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, is any questions, councillors?
Yeah.
If there's no questions, thank you, Councillor Whitfield.
Oh, thanks, Madam Mayor. Just a clarification there, Mr. Natoli. I've done a bit of reading on VCAT decisions, and some of the reading I've done says that future sensitive use is a factor, not just existing.
In some circumstances, each case is dealt with on its own merits. In this case, I guess a plan for use could be relevant. In terms of how our design responds to its context, and its context can only be assessed by what's there, I'd submit that the plan is the work plan is adequate, but in any event can be adjusted. But it's important to note that the work plan process for this quarry commenced well before that dwelling was approved. And I hazard a guess that
Just a follow-up on that, some of the decisions I've read say that the considerations at the time of submitting a permit should continue on those considerations until the time of decision, which can be 60 days later, and things can happen in between that time. So it should be fluent, the proposals and considerations and conditions according to the time of decision.
I guess I'd only respond to that by saying what I've said, which is at the time of and bearing in mind this is a resolution to just support the proposal, the sensitive use has not commenced on that location. The nearest dwelling is over 500 metres away.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any other councillor who would like to ask a question of Mr. Natoli? No? Okay. Thank you for your submission tonight. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we have a recommendation before us that council resolves to form a position of support for the application P20370, which seeks the use and development of the land for an extractive industry and alteration of access from a road zone category 1, RDZ1, at 1805 Rokewood Shelford Road, Rokewood, subject to conditions attached to this report.
Madam Mayor, and inclusion of the comments as made earlier by the planner in relation to condition 12.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Braslis. Do we have a mover to the motion? Councillor Sharkey? Do we have...
Sorry, Madam Mayor. I wish to submit an alternative recommendation, please.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
And just to give that a bit of context, Madam Mayor, I have circulated to all councillors prior to today an alternative recommendation. So I'm happy to take that as read by the councillors, and then if it is seconded, I'm happy to read it out.
Councillor Sharkey, just for the sake of the fact that we're live streaming this and the gallery or viewers have not seen that, if that could be read out, please.
Yeah, my suggestion was to. Yep, I'm happy to read that out.
Yep. So at least we know what your alternative recommendation is. Yep, that'd be great.
The alternative recommendation is that Council resolves to form a position of non-support for the application P20370, which seeks the use and development of the land for extractive industry and alteration of access from a road zone category 1 at 1805 Rokewood, Shelford Road, Rokewood, on the following basis. 1, until such time as the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal have heard applications for review of P604/2021 and P500/2021 and P501/2021 workers' cottage/second dwelling, which will determine the legal status of the permit subject to these hearings. Council is unable to determine if the proposed location of the quarry is suitable, having regards to the amenity impacts, including but not limited to separation distances between the two uses, potential noise impacts from blasting and the proposed two uses, and visual impacts, including but not limited to the impact on the agricultural landscape. Point 2, if the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal resolves to cancel the permits or amend the permits subject to P604/2021 and P500/2021 and P501/2021 hearings to be in line with a workers' cottage, Council would then support the application for the quarry at 1805 Rokewood, Shelford Road, Rokewood, P20370, in accordance with the officer report and recommendation, including the proposed permit conditions, including the amendment mentioned there, condition number 12C.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Sharkey, do you wish to speak? Recommendation at all?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm putting this application has taken a huge amount of time to go through it. There is over 300 pages there for us to read on this application, so it is again another big application. And having gone through this on a briefing day where we discussed this, I felt quite comfortable at that stage with the recommendation. Having met Mr. Walton and Mr. Code down and Mrs. Walton down at the site and getting a little bit deeper of an understanding of it, where I personally became unstuck with my discussion and debate on this was this dwelling / workers' cottage. So whilst I couldn't find any reason for refusal for that, if it is as Mr. Walton has suggested, a dwelling, then my assessment of this application would be different. So that, to me, on that point of it being a dwelling or a workers' cottage, has completely confused me. So I think that the purpose of this recommendation is that we have a position. So there is a decision made here tonight, and that is that we wait, we go off, wait for that VCAT hearing to be heard, and then there's two outcomes from that. So we are, in fact, making a decision. So I'm happy to just take that at this moment, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, for me, in this application, the pivotal factor is it revolves around the permit for a sensitive use on an adjoining property, which is currently in a position of dispute and set for VCAT hearings and discussions in the future. It is impossible for me to form a position of support for this application until the outcomes of those hearings determine the legitimacy or compliance of buffer distances proposed in this application. And as I say, that is the significant factor for me. So I follow the recommendation of non-support until those hearings are held. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the recommendation? Is there any councillor who'd like to speak for? Councillor Rowe.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Look, listen, I realise that the wind farm needs material for road base and for the construction of this wind farm. However, I too have an issue with this permit for a dwelling, which is only I think 100 metres from this quarry. I think this dispute needs to be played out in VCAT and get some sort of a consensus in relation to the matter, because I don't want to put the cart before the horse on this one. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak? Thank you, Councillor Gamble.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Kirby. I'd like to speak on the issue just briefly. I support Councillor Whitfield's position that there is some issues that are best left to be resolved at a different level, while there's confusion, or not confusion, but there's some doubt about planning definitions and things. Then the can and will be assessed at VCAT. Then I think it's not appropriate that we support the recommendation at this stage. But in principle, I like Councillor Rowe, I support the infrastructure needed for the wind farm, and we'll see what happens there. But also, I'd like to thank Mr. Natoli for speaking very well, explaining his position, and I hadn't heard that particular argument before about it not being an existing in use dwelling. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor like to speak for the motion? If not, Councillor Sharkey, if you'd like to sum up.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think this decision here tonight is a very sensible decision by us, taking on board all of the comments that have been presented to us. This alleviates that air of confusion from our perspective as councillors, whilst the applicants and then the objectors and council may all have their differing opinions on this. We as councillors aren't here to we've got to take the applications on the merit and what's presented to us. But when there is a cloud of uncertainty on one part of this, it very clearly identifies that we should take our time on this, and there is two outcomes within that recommendation there. So if in fact it is a dwelling, this will be no doubt coming back to us in a different manner. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. I will now put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. So following that, we'll just wait for that to come back from VCAT, and we'll see how we go with the next application when it comes back to council. Item 7.5, long-term financial plan. I'll ask Director O'Sullivan to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Section 91 of the Local Government Act 2020 includes a new requirement for councils to prepare a 10-year financial plan in accordance with its deliberative engagement practices, which is required to be approved by the 31st of October 2021. As reported to Council in the July briefing, Golden Plains Shire Council has traditionally prepared a 10-year financial plan as part of its annual budget process. However, now under the Local Government Act 2020, it's now required to be formally adopted by Council. The financial plan's been updated to incorporate changes to circumstances since preparing the 2021-22 budget. The following changes have been made to key assumptions to provide a more accurate picture of the estimated financial position over the next 10 years. These changes include our customer growth increasing to 4.5% from the years 24-25 to reflect the Bannockburn South Growth Precinct. The garbage charge increases in 23-24 and 24-25 to incorporate the waste services. User fees increased in line with rate caps. We've also incorporated wind farm income to reflect both the Berrybank Stage 2 and Golden Plains. We've included some additional profit from land sales, both in the Bannockburn development and the Smythesdale development. All of operating expenditure, salaries and wages have been increased by the rate cap increases. And we've also built in some additional workforce resources to acknowledge the growing shire in the spaces which we've spoken about in relation to Bannockburn South and across the shire. So as noted, in accordance with legislation, it's recommended that Council place the 21-22 long-term financial plan out for public exhibition for any comments that can be heard at the September Council meeting and prior to the adoption at the 31st of October 2021. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Any questions, councillors? No questions? Okay, councillors, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover to the motion? Councillor Rowe. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Rowe, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Look, this long-term financial plan is an initiative from the Local Government Act 2020. It forces us to prepare a 10-year financial plan that needs to be approved, as you've heard, by the 31st of October 2021. And this council has traditionally prepared a 10-year plan. However, this has been upgraded to provide a more accurate picture of the estimated financial position moving forward. Look, some of the, I won't list them all. I think you've heard most of them, but some of the key changes are the customer growth increased to 4.5% from the 2024-25 years. The increase of 35% in the garbage charge, and that is due to the new requirements. Also taking into account is the wind farm income, and also the Bannockburn development, the $3 million profit on land sales in the 2025-2029 years, and also the Smythesdale development, 800K profit on land sales in the 2023-2025 years. I must say, I am very concerned with this proposed sell-off of land, because I class this as going backwards and not sustainable. My motto, it's easy to sell and it's always hard to buy. The financial plan will be put on public display from the 25th of August for a 3-week period. This will underpin the 2021-22 draft budget, and we as a council are impacted by the demand, especially for the new services with the population growth, and also our large road network being a fairly large shire. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not a lot else to add to Councillor Rowe's comments, but also to echo that this is a very important document that allows council to access key assumptions that will provide a more accurate picture of projected future financial positions going forward. And once again, as Councillor Rowe said, I would encourage all residents of the Shire to take the opportunity to review the document when it goes on public exhibition from tomorrow, and review the possible cost. Once again, as Councillor Rowe said, especially the very real financial costs that the waste management changes that are coming in, that's going to probably impact on the residents. So that's about all I have to say on that, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Whitfield?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a point of clarification, I believe the long-term financial plan is going out for public exhibition on the 31st of October. That's all right, that someone else can look that up. Yeah, happy to note the contents of the long-term financial plan, and note that it's still being formulated and it's really yet to have significant councillor input. Councillors are looking forward, I know, to seeing some of the modelling that is underway, and we will be employing every strategy we can to ensure that this long-term financial plan sets the tone for a sustainable Golden Plains. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Just to clarify that point, it's the long-term financial plan. It needs to be adopted by the 31st of October, but it goes out for public consultation of September. So thank you.
Thanks for clearing that up, Madam Mayor. I thought 25th of August was a bit close.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone like to speak against? Yes, Councillor Cunningham.
Oh, sorry, Madam Mayor, just a point of order there. Reading in the agenda notes here, it has got that it's going out to public exhibition from the 25th of August, closing on the 13th.
Yes. Yes, submissions.
That's tomorrow. Yes.
So they are for submission.
Tomorrow. Thank you.
Come back to council.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against? Councillor Sharkey?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This is, yes, this item is going out for public consultation starting from tomorrow up until the 13th of September. And then we'll come back to us. We'll receive a report to adopt this at the 26th of October meeting, to be sent off then by the deadline of the 31st of October. So public consultation, this is a great document for residents to look at the good, the bad and the indifferent on this. There's some really great figures that are in this, some encouraging signs. There is going to be some big decisions have to be made into the future. Some of those decisions and outcomes, be it sales or be it reinvestment or whatever, there is embedded into that long-term plan decisions for us to set aside money in areas to further invest then into sports and rec. So it's, these funds aren't all just going into consolidated revenue; they are being invested back into the communities, which is fantastic. This document is a live and breathing and living document that no doubt will change over the 10-year journey. When we're presented with challenges such as a pandemic and things like that, no doubt that this document will flex and mould itself to whatever the council of the day decides. Just a couple of points to take out of it. I did mention earlier in the meeting that my last month has been, or particularly last couple of weeks with rate notices going out, has been taken up by rates payers. I think this document is very open and transparent with residents of our future costs into the future. The garbage charge, which was covered there by the director, is one of the most alarming figures to see in there. Within a couple of years, by 2025, 2026, garbage charge is going to be at $700. Fast forward to the end of this plan and all the growth in there, the garbage charge is going to be close to $1,100 per resident. So hopefully the growth of our wages grow at a faster rate, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that. But I think residents need to be well and forewarned. This isn't mismanaged by council. This isn't a bad council in that. This is the state government imposing some pretty hefty rubbish charges on us. So we are adopting. There's a lot of that money going to be spent on in the environmental footprint of recycling and that into the future. But I think that the sooner residents come to terms with the fact that the rubbish charge is going to be escalating each and every year, it's just something that residents should be well aware of. Also, within there, the average ratepayer who now pays just over $2,000, I think it's $2,091. It's going to rise up $500 over the 10 years. So over the next 10 years, the average ratepayer in our shire is going to be paying $500 more than what they are paying now. Coincidentally, the same amount, $500, is the increase that Batesford residents have seen in this one single year. So we have to get that rating system better suited for ratepayers to share the burden there. But $500 increase over the next 10 years. So some exciting things in there, but I don't want to gloss over some of the daunting figures in there as well. But this document, as Councillor Rowe said, does underpin our budget each year and will set us well into the future. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak for or against? If there's no other councillor, I'll ask Councillor Rowe if you'd like to close the debate.
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank all the councillors there that made comment in relation to this long-term financial plan for the next 10 years. And also too, I'll just be brief, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this document will shape our future going forward. And I'll tell you what, there'll be a lot of tough decisions to be made throughout this. So thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. I will now put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.6, community services and infrastructure plan. Director Lettick, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report recommends the adoption of a set of principles that will guide Council's future planning and investment in community infrastructure. These 9 principles are designed to ensure efficient and effective management of council-owned community infrastructure that promotes an active, connected and vibrant community. Other principles are ensuring facilities are accessible, inclusive, sustainable and safe. Utilisation is optimised through partnerships and collaboration and encourages multiple uses. The report also notes the receipt of a full plan that provides a comprehensive technical data set for internal use to guide planning and priorities for action. The plan is a living document that will continue to be reviewed and updated as information and data becomes available and will be used to contribute to future decision-making regarding future investment in community infrastructure. Those findings will be considered alongside community consultation and other relevant contextual data to inform decisions. The principles are outlined in page 70 of the agenda. I won't read them out if that's okay, but the recommendation is that Council adopt the community infrastructure planning principles as attached that have been developed to support the vision for community infrastructure and can be applied as a rationale for determining investment in community infrastructure. It seeks that Council note the receipt of the full community services infrastructure plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lettick. Is there any questions, councillors? No questions? Okay. Thank you, Director. So we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover to the motion? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Whitfield, if you'd like, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very pleased to support this recommendation. Having a methodology in place to determine infrastructure improvements and prioritise them according to utilisation data is smart policy. The community services and infrastructure plan can be used as an internal reference and it will undergo updates of data collection along the way to ensure the decisions we're making are made with a calculated approach. I believe any time we can do that, it's going to allow for a better outcome. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This document, and also this process, this has come through our portfolio, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this process. It's probably one of the most intriguing and in-depth documents and processes that I've seen. Ralph Cummings, who put this together, is a wealth and a power of information on this, and no doubt going into the future, I think he'll be stitched up by every single council across Victoria to put together this document. Taking some of the comments from Councillor Rowe earlier about tough decisions ahead, he's 100% correct. Both this council and councils into the future has some really tough decisions to make ahead of them. Tough decisions are made a little bit easier to make when you've got documents such as this. And that's looking at it from a negative point of view in terms of questions. Do we have too many facilities in the Shire? Do we have too many tennis courts or netball courts or whatever it might be? This needs to be some consolidation on some of those items and some better investment rather than sort of investing spreading the budget thin. We get to invest into specific areas that will be identified within this data set. Looking on the positive side of things, when it comes to advocacy into the future, we get to revert to this document and be able to, with a huge amount of confidence, say where the investment in the future should be. So councils also that may have tough decisions with regards to funding of facilities around the Shire, we'll be able to lean on this document to make some tough decisions. So both for the short, the medium and the long term ahead, this document will help support our decisions into the future and make and really concentrate on making some of our facilities around the Shire more sustainable into the future. But this document is here, as we've seen, that the data set that's underneath this is a mind-boggling array of numbers and figures and data there. So of full credit to the director and the team underneath this one. It's been for me quite an enjoyable process to have gone through, and councillors into the future will be challenged by this document. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone who would like to speak against the motion? Is there anyone who would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Getson, did you want to speak for the motion? Councillor Getson.
Yeah, can you hear me all right? Because I'm having trouble hearing everybody else.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm not getting much at all coming through, but I think I got what Councillor Sharkey said. We also, I think a lot of our tennis courts around the Shire could be converted into netball courts or something like that, utilise those as a twofold thing. A lot of halls we've got that needs to be looked at for different entertainment, etc., like that. And our ageing and that, we need to look into our ageing, because I think we're falling down a little bit on that within our Shire, because we've got a lot of elderly people, and we need to do a lot more about that with home help, etc., around the Shire. I'm having trouble seeing you actually, Madam Mayor, so but I'll leave it at that at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Are you still able to see us, Councillor Getson?
Yeah, back on again. I only got one little bar on my computer.
All right, thank you. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor to speak for the motion? If not, Councillor Whitfield, would you like to close the debate? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, there is no debate on this. The document will be incredibly helpful in decision making going forward, and internally for the staff to use as well. Yeah, any time you can refer to numbers is a good thing. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Okay, I will now put the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.7, environmental health premises registration fee changes. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council officers undertook benchmarking with neighbouring councils, and it was found that Golden Plains is the only council which does not currently apply pro rata to new premises registration fees. The only variation amongst our neighbours was how pro rata is being applied, which range from a monthly to quarterly to biannually. Council registers food and health premises such as beauty, therapy, tattoo and accommodation on an annual basis under the provisions of the Food Act of 1984 and the Health and Wellbeing Act of 2008. Fees are paid for registration, which are set annually by council. Currently, any new business that applies for registration throughout the course of the year is subject to the same 12-month fee, regardless of when they apply. Applying pro rata to new food and public health and wellbeing registration fees is a fairer approach and common practice for the majority of Victorian local government authorities. It is considered a fairer and more transparent approach needs to be considered, particularly as the number of registration cancellations and new registrations will rise significantly due to the change in recent legislation to the Food Act. In terms of finances, an estimated total loss of about $7,488 in income is expected, and if the recommended options are adopted as per the report and the attachments. There's further detail in terms of the financial loss estimate provided within the report. The recommendation before you tonight, councillors, is that Council 1 adopts a quarterly pro rata approach to new premises registration fees as attached. 2, amends fees to allow new premises registration when applied for in the last quarter to extend to following the registration period for up to 15 months as attached. And 3, adopts a quarterly pro rata refund approach to cancel the registration fees also as attached. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director Josipovic. Is there any questions, councillors? Okay, no questions. All right, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a motion? Do I have a move? I have a motion. Do I have a mover? Councillor Gamble. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Gamble, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Kirby. I support this modification of the fee structure to environmental health premises. It demonstrates greater fairness to new applicants in particular, and hopefully many returning ones too after COVID or the worst of it. It exhibits sensitivity in a difficult sector at the moment, which is a real small business engine room in our community. Of course, there is slightly more complexity in administration than the status quo, but a healthier and encouraged small business sector is for the larger benefit of the community. This quarterly pro rata approach is reasonable and well thought out, and I support it on this basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak on the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. I support Councillor Gamble's comments, and just add that I also support Council's recommendation in the officers on all applicable options put forward, and also agree with Councillor Gamble that it seems to be a fairer, less complex to administer and streamline the applicable process and policies in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any councillors who would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors who would like to speak for the motion? If not, I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.8, environmental upgrade finance agreements feasibility. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At Council's 27th of April ordinary meeting, Council supported the following notice of motion by Councillor Gavin Gamble, that the Golden Plains Shire Council investigates and prepares a report on the feasibility, implications and benefits of the Shire facilitating environmental upgrade financial agreements to all businesses and homeowners within the Golden Plains Shire. Environmental Upgrade Finance, or EUF, is a council-based financing mechanism that gives commercial and residential building owners access to finance for sustainability projects or climate adaptation upgrades, such as sprinklers for bushfires, to existing commercial and residential buildings. Under an EUF agreement, there are three distinct parties: the lender, the property owner, and council. The lender provides finance to the property owner, and council collects repayments through the rate system. Council then passes the repayments on to the lender. EUF agreements is legislated under the Local Government Act of 2020. There are clearly a number of community benefits of EUF programs outlined in the report. However, there are also challenges associated with EUF. External auditors have confirmed the council would be required to use its property and rating system to raise the EUF charges. Any charges raised will sit within council's debtors balance until the charge is paid. This will impact council's financial statements and is misleading, as the debt is not related to council, but between the property owner and the lender. The key issue, however, is that council's property and rating system is not set up to handle these arrangements. As such, there would be considerable manual workload required to set up, manage, and follow up payments and subsequently liaise with both the property owner and lender. In essence, council takes on the role as an administrative middleman. These issues may be mitigated in the future with the new property and rating system, and officers could look into options once this system is in place. It is expected that a new property and rating system will be implemented in the next 12 to 24 months. In the meantime, council can continue to partner with organisations like Geelong Sustainability in delivering opportunities for residents, like the Geelong Community Solar Program. In conclusion, while there are benefits of the EUF arrangements in creating accessibility for environmentally sustainable upgrades to buildings, these arrangements are probably more suited to large organisations with more advanced financial systems in place and the appropriate level of resourcing to handle any additional administrative burden. The recommendation is that council do not facilitate environmental upgrade finance agreements for business and homeowners at this time. Continue to partner with organisations like Geelong Sustainability and Regional Sustainability Alliance Ballarat to deliver programs that assist property owners to access environmental upgrades, and include environmental upgrade finance opportunities in the development of the Climate Action Plan, including whether there are any similar arrangements for businesses. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Josipovic. Do we have any questions for the Director? No questions? Okay. I'll then ask, do we have a mover to the motion? Councillor Whitfield. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm supportive of the recommendation. I believe as good as the benefits of the EUFR, council at this point does not have the administrative capability to facilitate it. And as pointed out in the report, the property and rating system would need to undergo some updating. I think there might be opportunity down the track for this to be incorporated, but not at this time. So I'll support the recommendation. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham,
Nothing.
would you like to speak?
Nothing else to add, Madam Mayor. I think.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you.
Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Is there any councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. Whilst I'm not opposing this recommendation, I would like to express my disappointment that we can't go forward on offering these financial agreements to our constituents. I accept the systems difficulties outlined in the report, the property and rating systems that are set to be upgraded in 12 to 18 months. But I will look forward to these state government legislated environmental upgrade financial agreements being part of our future climate action plan. I believe it's a powerful way to get climate adaptation and safety measures and greenhouse emissions reduced in the general community, not just a council activity, and to help our ratepayers at the same time in terms of making these things affordable, and other adult citizens to save money and safeguard their homes. So it's well worth pursuing, and I'll look forward to doing that as part of the Climate Action Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Against? If not, Councillor Whitfield, Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Rowe.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I think these financial opportunities that Councillor Gamble's looking for ratepayers, I think if the ratepayer wants it, they can go and get help from somewhere else. Listen, we're not the Reserve Bank, you know. And the thing is, if they want to go, they can go and find the money elsewhere with low interest rates at the moment. You know what I mean? It's not up to us as a council to be doing this, in my book. We can advocate, but as far as getting into a financial situation, I don't think it's the right way to go.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there any other councillors who'd like to speak for the motion, against the motion? If not, Councillor Whitfield, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have too much further to add on that item. I see it as pretty cut and dried recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? One. Those against? And Councillor Sharkey, you're not voting. You're abstaining from voting, Councillor Sharkey.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I had my hand up voting for that. The virtual thing sometimes playing havoc with me, but I was in favour of the motion.
You were for the vote, for it, for the motion? Yes, okay. Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We might have a 10-minute recess, councillors. We've been at it for 3.5 hours. I think after an hour and a half, we'll have a 10-minute recess. Do I have a mover to move out of, to have a recess? Thank you. We don't have to have one. All right. Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. So we'll come back at 9:41, councillors.
Just to advise, I'll keep the live stream going through this break. So just be aware that it's still running, and I'll just put up a screen. Thank you.
All right. We've still got quite a few. So I thought 10 minutes won't hurt now while it's 9:30. So 9. 1 minute. Just had to turn the heater up. It's getting a bit fresh.
If just let us know when the live stream comes back on.
Lucky you got a heater. All I've got to.
The live stream was never turned off, so everyone just be conscious of what you say.
We're good. Okay, we've got everyone back. Yes, we have. All right, item 7.9, Committee of Management of Crown Land, the Meredith Police.
Councillor Sharkey's not there yet.
Oh, sorry. 2, 4, 6. Apologies, Councillor Sharkey. Item 7.9, Committee of Management of Crown Land, the Meredith Police Paddocks and Happy Valley Reserve. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic. I'll pass this on to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report introduces the proposal from the Ballarat Environment Network, or BEN, to exchange land management rights with Golden Plains Shire Council. This exchange is proposed between the Meredith Police Paddocks, currently managed by BEN, and the Happy Valley Reserves managed by Council. It should be noted that the proposed swap does not include the reservoir, the component of the land at Happy Valley that includes the reservoir. Sorry about that. The background provides a brief introduction to the various stakeholder groups associated with the issue. The discussion section of the report provides a short chronological outline of the lead up to the proposal and notes the need for careful and thoughtful consideration prior to making a decision. The report provides a summary of each reserve before addressing the reporting and compliance topics associated with such a proposal. The summary of the reporting and compliance issues provides some insight into the potential concerns associated with such a proposal. The most notable implications associated with finances, resources, risk, and community engagement. Suite of options are outlined for consideration. However, the final recommendation is to maintain the status quo at this time. The report concludes by recognising that Meredith Police Paddocks is a valuable public open space asset and the reserve strongly aligns with strategic objectives found within the Council Plan 2021 to 2025. It goes on to, however, conclude that Golden Plains Shire Council is not in a position whereby it would be advisable to agree to such a land exchange, primarily due to the ongoing management requirements of the Meredith Police Paddocks and the ongoing issues with the reservoir at the Happy Valley Reserve. The current financial implications for Council at both sites are outlined in the table within the financial section of the report. In summary, the current arrangements, Council spends approximately $3,500 at the Happy Valley Reserve on pest, plant and animal control, including the fire service levy, and there is a future capital potential liability of in the order of $70,000 for remediation of the reservoir wall. Should a future land swap occur, it would drastically change the financial implications for Council, with the estimated costs being for the Meredith Police Paddocks in the order of $50,000 operational per annum for pest, plant and animal control, revegetation, arboricultural maintenance, infrastructure maintenance of the walking tracks, fire breaks, fencing, signage, as well as fire services levy, stakeholder and community engagement. There is also an estimated $50,000 in capital required at the site for improvements that will be required to address known drainage and fencing issues. It's also made clear in the report that there is a push by the community group to have some creek crossings installed, up to 6, and the cost of those is unknown at this stage, but likely to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if the swap was to occur, we'd still be liable for the $2,500 for the pest animal control and fire service level at Happy Valley Reserve, as well as the $70,000 capital cost of remediation of the reservoir wall. With all that in mind, it is recommended that council decline the proposed land swap and retain the status quo with council managing the Happy Valley Reserves and the Ballarat Environment Network managing the Meredith Police Paddocks. Delegate the CEO to respond to the Ballarat Environment Network on behalf of council. Included within the response a request that the Ballarat Environment Network work with the Meredith Police Paddocks Support Group and the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning to find a mutually agreeable outcome that does not involve Golden Plains Shire Council at this time. And 3, request the CEO to develop a plan for the reservoir wall remediation that can be considered in future budget submissions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director Josipovic. Is there any questions, councillors? No questions? Okay. Okay, do we have a mover to the motion, councillors? Councillor Gamble and Councillor Getson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move an alternative motion that council adopts option 3 on page 90. Basically, that we agree to this exchange of or swap of the different lands.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder for the alternative motion? I'm sorry, Councillor Gamble, but declines because we do not have anyone to second it. It lapses. I'm sorry. So we will now go back to the original recommendation. Do we have a mover? Councillor Getson. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Getson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
That's yes. All right. Yes, look, this reservoir has been in and looked after by the community for probably 100+ years. It supplies 9 to 12 different places, houses, etc. with water. The reservoir is full at the moment. There's a little bit of work to be done, but I don't believe it'll cost $70,000. I did get quotes, as the director knows. I think we can have it done for probably about $30,000, which will bring it up to scratch. It's not a big job to do. The locals are quite happy to form a committee as soon as if they get the okay, and they can do that in any amount of time. They also repair all pipes or maintenance, which they have been doing all the years. There was $1,200 which went into Shire funds many years ago, and they lost that money. So there's one chap in particular that pays for all the fittings himself, which is very, very minimal. So I just think that's a lot of people can use a reserve, and we use it also as a fire area to pump water out with a quick fill pump, because it's 6 kilometres to Linton to the nearest fire hydrant, which is not convenient to do. Ben also have one at Springdella on the Cape Clear Road, which we try to get in there, fenced that off, and they restricted us in getting there to get a quick fill in there. So if it was still in the hands of the Shire, it would be looked after and at very little cost to the Shire. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, for the financial reasons outlined in the report, and considering strategies and other plans in place to recognise savings where we can and utilisation and things like that. I'm supportive of the recommendation. I don't feel it's appropriate that we take over the Meredith police paddocks, which are Dwelp owned, and spread our resources and finances on land that we don't own. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Gamble.
Thanks, Mayor. I believe it'd be the best outcome overall if this exchange did take place, and I don't believe the financial implications are nowhere near as bad as what seems to be the case in the report. For one thing, I think it'd just be a better fit. The Ben Group, their statement of purpose is to look after lands of the most with the highest value biodiversity. They've already got significant parcels of land in the Happy Valley area, so it complement their strategy and purpose in that area. The dam issue is always our issue, whatever happens, because it was in our responsibility for, it was under our jurisdiction when this problem happened. So it's fitting that we address that. And the Meredith police paddocks, then the community group, the support group that's active there, then they do mowing of the tracks, the upper sort of tracks, but they'd actually prefer the council take it over, so it is looked after better, and it's a better fit that the council looks after a community asset. That's what it is for them, than for Ben volunteers, because they are basically a volunteer group coming down from Ballarat to do it. I've spoken to some of the people at Ben, and I have found that their costings are very, very much different and lesser than what's been put in the report. I'm not sure we're comparing apples and oranges there. I'd also have assurances from those people too that they haven't that they won't lock up the reservoir to local users, and it's not their place to decommission dams or anything like that. They're really interested in the very high value grassy woodlands that are in that area that they like to sort of protect. And likewise, they've also said I asked them about the restrictions at Springdella, and they say that that's not true. So I'm not sure what the real story is there. But the police paddocks is basically a community asset, and I believe that it would be better under the auspices of the council. I was going to refer to some of the screen quotes of the report there to back up my position, but I'm having a bit of trouble with the tech getting it all up in the one screen at the moment. I think that's the basis of my opposition and belief that it would be better if we got the structures right of who looks after what for the best outcomes, and it might cost a bit of money, but it's less than, I believe it's a lot less than what's in the report, and I hope some agreement can be found to break this impasse that we've got at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Sharkey.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. A little bit confused by some of the comments there with regards to this item. and also supportive of a little bit of the intent there, particularly with Gavin Gamble's, Councillor Gamble, my apologies, comments there. But I personally try to challenge myself as a councillor. We do repeatedly all say that we have to look for savings and look for areas in which we shouldn't be part of. And unfortunately on this one, that the cost is somewhat significant. I know Councillor Gamble referred to other costs there, but that's unbeknown to me. I'm going off the information that has been provided here, but also as well there that item 3 of the recommendation requests the CEO to develop a plan for the reservoir wall remuneration that can be considered in a future budget submission. So that's going to come. That reservoir there is going to come at a cost to ratepayers of $70,000, and it's tough decision, and I'm not declaring a position on that one way or the moment at the moment without the information provided. But they're the type of decisions that we need to be making as a council, whether we should be in that space of not. That is Crown land, and one could formulate an argument that that's not council's responsibility. But these are the tough decisions ahead of us into the future. I think this is a fair and balanced recommendation. So happy to support the recommendation as it is. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor like to speak for the motion? If not, Councillor Getson, would you like to sum up for us?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I might add too that the land that is cleared, there's no bush on it whatsoever. It's on the northern side of probably 5 houses, which provides a fire break. To the north of that, on the Linton Piggereek Road, is where Ben are managing a reserve. There is probably about 8 to 10 tonne of wood and debris on the forest floor. So we are looking at a very heavy fire risk if we get a fire. We missed out a couple of years ago, luckily, but there's no timber cleared up whatsoever on that area. So whereas the reserve is clear, and we're afraid if it was taken over by Ben, they would plant trees and then we would have a fire problem there. So, as Councillor Sharkey said, 70,000, but I think there's a local contractor up here that put in a quote, which you all would have seen. He would do it a lot cheaper because he only lives about 2 k's away as a crow flies. So he would do that for the local community, part of his community input. So as I said, it supplies water to houses. They use it for sewage. They use it for livestock. They have for years. There's an antique water standpipe on the corner, which some people are talking about restoring and getting that working again. So I'd just like to see this go through and then save the council a lot of money and obviously keep the residents happy because they need the water, and they'll keep a good lookout onto volunteering to keep it in ship shape again, as has been done in the past. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.10, Council Governance Rules Review, draft for public exhibition. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The governance rules were last adopted by Council on the 25th of August 2020, which was in accordance with Section 60 of the Local Government Act 2020. Following a period of review, opportunities for improvement have been identified, and as a result, we're proposing to make some amendments to the governance rules. The areas for improvement are around just providing some additional definitions, structure to procedural aspects, and mainly around the notices of motion. As with these processes, we will be going out for community engagement. So as a result, we're requesting the council endorse the draft governance rules to place on public exhibition, with any submissions being heard at the September meeting, and then coming back in October for adoption by council. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Is there any questions, councillors? No questions. Okay, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for a motion? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move an alternate motion.
Yes, you may. Thank you.
I'd like to move that we defer this item until the next council meeting, so that councillors can use the time between now and then to discuss the implications of the proposed amendments.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Mr. Brussells, do you have that down in writing?
Yeah, the deferral's fine, so just need a seconder.
Yep, that's fine. Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham? Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. As Director O'Sullivan said, there's been some areas highlighted for improvement, and while I'm an advocate for continuous improvement, I feel that given the scale of this month's agenda at close to 1,200 pages, and this item not being discussed during our briefing day, I don't think we can send those amendments out for public consultation until the councillor group has discussed them. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, nothing else to add to that. I fully agree with Councillor Whitfield's comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any councillor who would like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who would like to speak for it? If not, Councillor Whitfield, would you like to sum up?
Nothing further to add. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.11, review of instruments of delegation. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. You can introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council can act in only one of two ways, and that's by either a decision that's resolved by council or an instrument of delegations to others to act on council's behalf. The legislation referred to in the attached instruments of delegation in attachments 2 and 3 enables council to delegate functions, duties and powers other than specific exemptions to council staff. The review of the instrument of delegations from council to members of council staff has been undertaken. The review included changes required under the instrument template issued by Paddocks, and more importantly, the new powers conferred to council by the Environment Protection Act 2017 and the instrument of delegation of the Environment Protection Authority under the Act dated the 4th of June 2021. Other changes included internal review to ensure we had an alignment with organisational requirements, structure, position responsibilities and cosmetic changes. Taking into this review, it is now appropriate for council to adopt the amended instrument of delegation. By carrying out this instrument of delegation, council will ensure compliance with legislation and provide a clear framework to ensure that members of council staff are aware of and acting within their designated levels of authority. This will also allow council staff to exercise the new powers by the Environment Protection Act 2017. Thank you.
Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Is there any questions, councillors? No, if not, I will ask for a mover. Do we have a mover for the motion, councillors? Councillor Gamble. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sharkey. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Gamble?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to note that these review instruments of delegation are subject to periodic review and enhancement for the better working of council, but also maintaining safeguards too in order to represent citizens' interests and their concerns as well as the organisations. It's necessarily a complex and legalistic document or documents outlining the limits and various conferrals of authority. I'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Sharkey, did you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you. Well, thank you very much, Madam. Yeah, fairly straightforward, this item here, and it is instructing us the instruments of delegation going forward. So I think it's fairly straightforward, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 7.12, award of tender Rfts 05/2021 construction stage 1, 14 lot development at Lamandra Drive subdivision. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Madam Mayor, just to interrupt, sorry. I can't see Councillor Rowe anymore.
You're right. I just noticed that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Rowe, are you with us? Councillor Rowe, you've dropped out.
I'll just give him a ring.
All right, thank you.
That being said, the meeting can continue.
Thank you. Okay, I'll ask Director Josipovic.
Excuse me, I've dropped out for some reason. So someone seems to shut me down.
Okay. All right, councillors will continue, and Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council was issued a planning permit for the development of council-owned land into 37 individual lots. Council tendered for design services with the Tompkinson Group appointed to provide the detailed design of the proposed development to meet all the relevant conditions of the planning permit at Lamandra Drive in Teesdale. As mentioned, the land is council-owned and in the township of Teesdale. It is zoned low density residential zone with development plan overlay schedule 5 and development plan overlay schedule 2 applicable. The land is mostly flat and cleared of vegetation except for native vegetation adjacent to the western boundary. Following the completion of detailed design, Golden Plains Shire Council advertised for suitably qualified and experienced contractors for the construction of 14 lots in stage 1 of the Lamandra Drive subdivision. Stages 2 and 3 will be carried out in the future and will be subject to separate tenders. The tender was originally advertised on 19th of June 2021 and closed on the 14th of July 2021 with 9 submissions received on closing. The submissions were reviewed and compliance checked with no submissions identified as non-compliant. The OH&S team reviewed the submissions and provided a final report. After the evaluation panel had reviewed and scored each tender and all clarifications, a consensus evaluation meeting was held on the 3rd of August 2021. Councillors have been provided with a copy of the confidential tender evaluation report for consideration prior to making a decision. Civil Force Proprietary Limited were chosen as the preferred supplier based on consensus scores measured by capacity, capability, price, and local content. The tender process was overseen by a probity advisor from Pitcher Partners, given that the council acts as both planning authority and developer in this instance. I am aware that councillors have been contacted by a tenderer not recommended to be appointed, suggesting the evaluation process was flawed. For the record, the following process was undertaken. A probity plan was developed by the probity advisor from Pitcher Partners prior to the release of the tender. Tender documents were then prepared in accordance with the probity plan. The tender was advertised and 9 submissions received, as I mentioned. Council's OH&S team reviewed all submissions for mandatory OH&S compliance. Tenders were then released to the 3 panel members to individually and separately score each submission against the advertised criteria. On average, it took approximately 10 hours for each member to review the 9 tenders. A consensus meeting was held for approximately 2 hours, which was overseen by the probity advisor. The consensus meeting resulted in a request to referee check the 2 high scoring tenders. This took the procurement officer approximately 3 hours to complete. The consensus scores were reviewed by the probity advisor to ensure all the weightings and resultant weighted scores were accurate. No issues were identified. A final meeting was held to review the reference checks, again overseen by the probity advisor, which concluded to recommend the preferred tenderer as per the report. This meeting was for an hour. A further 4 hours was needed to prepare the evaluation and council report. This project is funded by an allocation of $1,384,000 from council's 2021-22 budget, and the tender is within the total allocated project budget. Additional costs to be funded from the project budget include project management fees of $35,000. Tompkinson Group, who designed the subdivision civil works, will be appointed to oversee the delivery of the works as a superintendent's representative. In conclusion, the evaluation panel has conducted a comprehensive and detailed assessment of the submissions, which were received in response to council's request for tender, as outlined in this report, to ensure compliance with the relevant provisions of the Local Government Act and council's procurement policy requirements. It is recommended that council resolves to award the contract GPSC RFT 052021, construction stage 1, 14 lot development at Lamandra Drive, Teesdale to Civil Force Proprietary Limited for the sum of $1,176,985.20, exclusive of GST, and 2 delegates to the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate authority to execute the contract on behalf of council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Just before we ask for any questions, Councillor Rowe is back with us. Can you see and hear all of us, Councillor Rowe? Councillor Rowe, can you see and hear us? He's dropping out. All right, well, we'll just mark him down as left the meeting at 10:14 as well, and see if he can pop back on. Okay, Councillor Sharkey.
Madam, just mindful and appreciating that Councillor Rowe.
Madam Mayor.
Hold on, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Sharkey speaking. Hold on.
Madam Mayor, I was going to if Councillor Rowe's back, it's perfectly fine. But if he was needing a few moments, I was going to suggest that he's back with us now. It seems to be okay. I was going to suggest that we jump to the notice of motion and then come back to this. But he seems to be there now. But if you felt it appropriate,
So, Councillor Rowe, can you see and hear us clearly?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I can now, but I dropped out a fair bit there before, And look, listen, going forward, if I drop out again, I've got some important things to speak about, especially with a cleaning contract, so I might have to ring in. Or you can I ring in if I drop out? Can you hear me?
I don't think we'll be able to see. We might be able to see you. Philippa, can you answer that, please?
We will need to see, but I think it's come clear. If you speak now, Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Mayor Kirby, if I happen to drop out later on, I've got some important stuff I want to discuss at some of these agenda items, and I think it's only fair I should be allowed to ring in then if I drop out on the internet.
Anne Marie, can you please confirm? I think the legislation said you have to hear and see. Can you confirm that?
And you can do that on your council phone, Councillor Rowe. You can zoom in on that.
Councillor Rowe, can you access Zoom on your phone?
No, can't do that.
Okay.
Anyway, look, listen, keep going ahead, but yeah, look, listen, I'll be doing somersaults if I can't talk later.
All right. Well, we'll keep pressing on. Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Okay, is there any questions for the director, councillors? We're up to Lamandra Drive. Thank you, Councillor Rowe. No questions for director? No? Okay. So we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover to the motion? Do we have a mover? Councillor Sharkey. Can you put your hand up a bit higher, Councillor Sharkey? Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This tender application comes before us, and there's a lot of reading in that. I think no more reading has been done on a couple of tenders like the ones that are coming before us at the moment. And the process in which we've gone through, as the director has clearly outlined, is a very full and thorough process in which we go through, and there is a lot of work that's going on behind the scenes to get to the outcomes that we do get to here. So I fully support the recommendation here, which resolves toward the contract to get these works underway. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also support the officer's recommendation and also acknowledge the work that does go into accessing these the tender process on behalf of the council officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Rowe?
Yeah, look, listen, I've missed half the, I've only just got back on again then. I've missed half this, but I'm not sure where we're up to. Look.
We're up to the Lamandra Drive subdivision. So we're just asking for for and against, people for and against, councillors for and against the motion that's been put forward.
So anyway, look, listen, all I'd like to say is I'm all for savings if we can, and I just can see that there is savings there if we want to. So I'm against the recommendation in that in this item, to be honest with you. But I've been sort of all thrown out here because I've lost the internet and I can't find one of my pages. So anyway, but keep on going forward anyway. There's some sort of a conspiracy here, I'll tell you.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? If not, I will ask Councillor Sharkey if he would like to close the debate. You're on mute, Councillor Sharkey.
There we go. Sorry, my apologies. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Again, this is a very thorough process in which we go through on these. I do find it extremely difficult to go against a recommendation on items such as these tenders. They go through an absolute thorough process with officers behind the scenes. There's something like 50 or 60 hours of officer time to put into these. The officers that go through the process on these are completely unaware of the tenders backgrounds or the prices as they come in. So they take each one on the merit. There is a huge level of detail that is exposed to us as councillors, which are all largely confidential. But I do struggle as a councillor to go against a recommendation on a specific tenderer. I'm quite happy to have the conversation as a collective group of councillors regarding the process, but not the outcome. So very much supportive of the recommendation and appreciative of the information that's been supplied to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.13, award of tender RFT 02/2021, public toilet and barbecue cleaning. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A key function of any local government is to provide a clean, tidy and functional open space network. This requires the assets associated with this network to be cleaned and maintained in a regular and proactive basis. Golden Plains Shire has 28 public toilets and 23 public barbecue facilities spread across the open space network in the Shire. 9 of these public toilets are cleaned daily, with the rest serviced at least twice a week. These facilities are highly valued and highly utilised by the local community and visitors travelling in the Shire. Golden Plains advertised a public tender for the cleaning of public toilets and barbecues on the 1st of May 2021 and closed on the 26th of May 2021. An evaluation panel consisting of 3 Golden Plains staff members was convened to evaluate the submissions after they have received an OH&S and procurement review. A total of 15 submissions were received and OH&S reviewed all submissions and provided a compliance report. Of the 15 submissions, 1 was deemed non-compliant, therefore not addressed by the panel. An initial evaluation meeting was held where the panel reviewed scores and shortlisted the top 6 ranked suppliers. The panel issued a clarification request on cost, technological innovations, and specific details of major services and special services. The panel met again once clarification was received. The pricing clarification altered the order of those within the top 6, and the remaining clarification enabled the panel to prepare a final recommendation. The recommendation was based upon all facets of the service provision, the tender responses, experience, qualifications, skills, systems, processes, budget implications, strategic alignment and risk. A copy of the confidential tender valuation report has been provided to councillors prior to making a decision. The current annual budget for this service is listed as listed in the tender, my apologies, is 223,300. The recommended tender award comes in below the budget amount for this service. Brand and reputational risk associated with having these assets in a poor state of cleanliness has an ability to have a medium to high risk for the organisation. Public amenities and barbecues are popular open space assets used by the local community and visitors alike. The condition, appearance and cleanliness are a critical factor that influences people's opinions of the Shire and the council. With all that in mind, and in conclusion, cleaning of public toilets and barbecues is a standard service provided by local government, required to be delivered on behalf of their communities. These assets are highly visible, highly utilised components and the open space network, and have the potential to be a key facilitator to public open space use, as well as an influence factor in public opinion of the Shire. The process undertaken was extensive, rigorous, and has been aimed to ensure that the most appropriate recommendation was made. It is recommended that Council resolve to award GPSC RFT 022021, cleaning of public toilets and barbecues, to ACS Property Services for a period of 3 years, with 2 options of 12 months based upon the nominated schedule of rates, and delegates to the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate authority to execute the contract on behalf of Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Is there any questions, councillors? No questions. Okay, we have a recommendation before us. So do I have a mover to the motion? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Been a bit of chatter about the tender process. I can say when that first tender came before us in this councillor term, I had to make a point of understanding the process and the scoring system, and having gone through that, I do believe it is a rigorous one, and I have faith in the tender system. This particular tender is not a large amount in comparison to many that come before us, but the works involved, some of the more high profile. To choose another tender other than the recommendation comes with risk. There is a push by this councillor group, I know, to find savings where we can. And this tender does come in well under budget. There are many factors that need to be accounted for if we were to choose a different contractor. And we need to be able to ensure a quality level of service, and that is vital for the cleaning of public toilets and barbecues, particularly in a time of pandemic. I might leave it there. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing else to add there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I would like to speak against the recommendation before us here tonight. Based on information in the recommending report on a review of this document, as a councillor, I think we can get better value with another tenderer with hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings over a 5-year period. I have thoroughly read over a copy of the confidential tender evaluation report provided to councillors at the briefing meeting and are happy with my findings. It was expressed to me that the previous tenderer for the cleaning of public toilets and barbecues did a fantastic job with very few complaints throughout the Shire. Using this information as a benchmark alongside the scoring methodology in relation to capacity, capability, local content and price, and best value on total score, as is referenced to councillors by the officers of the Golden Plains Shire, I would be failing my ratepayers and residents in supporting the recommendation for this cleaning contract. To be a cleaner doesn't require a 4-year degree at university. In my book, it is an unskilled job. However, the assets of the Shire need to be cleaned and maintained in a regular and proactive basis. These facilities are highly valued by the community and travellers. An alternative tenderer to the one recommended still has the skills to deliver this contract with hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings. These savings can be spent on other projects within the Golden Plains Shire. And we all know money is hard to get, easy to spend. To support me here in my endeavours on this one, I hope the new councillors who campaigned on Time for Change give this credit. And I quote one councillor saying in his campaign material, providing value for the ratepayer's dollar. Another councillor saying in his campaign material, and I quote, a united group that will work towards accountability. A necessary waste of hard-earned ratepayers' money on items such as significant blowouts and no financial wastage. Well, fellow councillors, the time for change has come. Put your thinking caps on and think hard on this topic and put your money where your mouth is and save this council a considerable amount of money with your actions. Furthermore, I am foreshadowing an alternative motion to go into confidentiality to decide an alternative tenderer if this motion is lost. So come on, folks, time for change, remember. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? If not, I'll put it. Councillor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate what Councillor Rowe's saying, that we are tight on money and we have to look at the everything that we spend in terms of implications to the general budgets. But in this case, I'm somewhat persuaded by knowledge that we have a member of the panel who has extensive managerial and commercial experience in this space. And I also have faith in the scoring process used. And the principle that good value is not always the cheapest. So I'm not really equipped to evaluate myself these matters. So that I take trust in that we do have some expertise within the council working in this space that's been on this, and that's why I find it hard to separate from the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? If not, I will ask Councillor Sharkey.
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Just wanting to speak for the motion being put. First of all, I'd like to take a moment to congratulate Councillor Rowe. I've had some very long and extensive conversations with Councillor Rowe on these two items of tender. Personally, I have done a couple of backflips on this item, especially after and having mentioned a few times during this meeting tonight that I have received considerable angst from ratepayers who demand us to make, as we've said tonight several times, tough decisions and to seek savings for this council. So with that in mind, some of the tenders that come forward to us as councillors, the first thing we look at is the price. And sometimes, and in some examples of tenders, some tenders are 10 times as much as the cheapest one. And we need to appreciate that the officers behind the scenes, they don't get to see the figures first or the tender amount. They start from the early part of the process and go through it. I am going to steal two words from our Councillor Whitfield's opening one, and one is risk. Whilst I personally debated myself with looking at other tenderers, I really feel that exposes us as individual councillors to a significant amount of risk as individuals. The organisation has got ample, supplied us with ample material there to let us know how they've made the decision. If we as councillors then decide to go with another tenderer, it exposes us to a significant amount of risk, and that ratepayers, residents and other tenderers who miss out on the job would have to ask the question, why has an individual councillor decided to change their mind at the last minute? Is there something untoward happening, or is there something happening? In fact, after having gone through this process myself on this, I don't think that we should be legally allowed to change some of these tenderers when they go through such an extensive process. And whilst I appreciate all the comments Councillor O has made, and I'd love to find some savings there, borrowing another word from Councillor Whitfield there, we do have to appreciate that we are in the middle of a pandemic, risk involved in our public toilets. It's not an area that we want to make a wrong decision on. There's tough decisions to be ahead for us, and I'm all for some tough decisions, but the risk on this one, for me personally, is a little bit too much. But again, I commend Councillor Rowe on the extensive work that he has done on this, and hasn't left a page unturned on this one. But thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting the recommendation as it is.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield if he would like to close.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say, well spoken by all parties on this topic. I can't argue with Councillor Rowe. We want to find savings, and budget efficiency is important. I think there will be many chances for us to do that going forward. I wouldn't be inclined to think this is one of them. I can't agree with Councillor Sharkey enough that the panel do the hard yards. They are the experts in the field and have the experience, and we should take their opinions with regard. I do think it's a high-profile tender and not one to be messed with. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you, councillors.
I'm worth 2 votes.
It's carried. Item 8, notices of motion. Item 8.1, notice of motion of wildlife crossing fatalities on local roads. Councillor Owen Sharkey, would you like to present your report?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This notice of motion comes before us after the diligent work that Councillor Gamble did at the last meeting, having put forward a notice of motion. I personally felt that there was an appetite by councillors. I think I was personally put in a difficult position last month where I wasn't supportive of the motion. But sorry, I'll put forward the motion. My apologies, I shouldn't be speaking to it. I put forward the motion that council request officers to prepare a detailed report on the wildlife-related road issues to be presented to councillors at a briefing day this year. The report is to consider roles and responsibilities and implications for council, both from a staff resourcing and financial point of view. And the rationale behind this is that just to investigate and be mindful of wildlife in our shire, but also to sort of see what our role is as a council organisation in this space. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Any questions, councillors? Any questions for Councillor Sharkey? No? Okay. If not, we have a motion before us. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to move the motion?
Yes, happy to move the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Gamble? Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Again, full credit to Councillor Gamble for bringing this issue to us last month. As I mentioned, there was a couple of points in which I didn't agree with, and obviously the majority of councillors didn't either. But I felt a little bit taken back after the last meeting, because I definitely didn't want to send a message to the community that we as a council group are non-responsive or ignoring our duties. It wasn't about that. It was about the process in which we go through. So this process here asks the organisation to put some information and get a report together for us as a collective group, and I'm sure that we all here would love to spend millions of dollars in this space and to save lots of wildlife, see what we can do. But we also know that we've got budget restraints. So I'm always and will be forever envious of our metro councils and other councils that can spend a significant amount of money in areas such as this. But we are challenged sometimes. So hopefully this report comes back to us and leaves us challenged with regards to what we can do, because I do feel there is lots of things that we can do in this space that doesn't just come at a financial cost either. So, and I know this motion here does refer to, I think when I was mindful of this motion, I was mindful of my home township of Batesford, which is a regular conversation around kangaroos being hit, I dare say on a weekly, bi-weekly timing at the moment, which is most disappointing. But there is an awful lot, and I have spoken to other residents in the Shire on this motion since it's been put forward, and there is other, we should be still having the conversation on wildlife as a collective, not just wildlife crossings, but I think we'll have that covered within the reports. And kangaroos are highly visible, but this motion isn't just in regards to kangaroos. It is around wildlife and all creatures, big, small, and beautiful, that are in our shire. So also just seeing what our responsibilities are as a local government council. But thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Gamble, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yep, thank you, Mayor Kirby, and thank you, Councillor Sharkey, for bringing this notice of motion forward, which I'm happy to support this motion and move forward on this issue. However, I am disappointed. My original notice of motion was, which was to a similar effect and intent at the last meeting, I feel was misrepresented somewhat. And I never got a chance to rebut comments by Councillor Sharkey. There was a breach of process Sharkey was aware of and I believe took advantage of. I'm happy to move forward on this important issue, but it's also disappointing Councillor Sharkey chose not to consult with me or any other councillors before lodging this notice of motion. I still believe my proposition of getting expert advice and guidance into the process is a good strategy from the outset, as it is a highly specialist area which can't be provided by officers to a full extent that's probably needed, but hopefully can be engaged at a later date with an expert consultant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Getson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to congratulate Councillor Gamble and Sharkey on this motion. I'm naturally in the north of the Shire for the benefit of our viewers. We have fatalities here daily. And when I say daily, probably 4 to 5 every day. We have kangaroos, we have wallabies, and we even have deer, an occasional deer as well. So this is a great move and it'll be a long way down the track, but unfortunately, I think a lot of these animals are unavoidable to miss at certain stages. And I just commend the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I did at the previous council meeting, when Councillor Gamble submitted a similar notice of motion, I will be supporting this motion. As I've previously stated, as a council, if we continue to approve and support a growing population, further property development, we have a responsibility and an obligation to ensure that we take the action to introduce possible solutions in an attempt to address this matter. In closing, and just a comment, I would have liked to have seen this notice of motion resubmitted to council by Councillor Gamble, as he was the original councillor to put this matter on the agenda. I would have also liked to have seen the following our last council meeting, where Councillor Gamble's motion was not fully supported, that Councillor Sharkey, as a experienced and returning councillor, as a sign of teamwork and unity to the councillor group and community, would have made contact with Councillor Gamble and assisted him with making the required additions, amendments, so as this original notice of motion could have been submitted again tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do thank Councillor Gamble for bringing it initially, and Councillor Sharkey for bringing it this time round. As a council, I think there is a need for us to partner or advocate with the relevant state authorities on some strategies, and these strategies would likely be highlighted in the report that will come to us. Yes, as it says, the report will allow council to understand what roles it can play in making our roads safer for wildlife and humans, and I think it's a very good starting point. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. There's no, I think, is there any other councillors who would like to speak for or against? If not, I will ask Councillor Sharkey to close the debate.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Look, I take on board some of the comments that have been put forward tonight, or personally been directed at me. This is not a one person. This is a team of councillors that have made a decision. At the last council meeting, the collective group of councillors decided against the motion that was put, and for reasons that have already been debated. I did not want to be seen as losing this issue. I put together this notice of motion, spoke to some, and also sent this notice of motion around to all councillors over a week prior to the council meeting. And if councillors would like to refer back to that email, I'm sure I used words in that email, words to the effect that if anyone would like to speak or talk about this, I was more than happy to take comments or change the motion or do whatever. But it was circulated around to councillors. And at the last previous council meeting a month ago, I, for one, as a councillor, did not receive the motion that was put forward. So I didn't have an opportunity to put any input into that one a month ago. But I definitely feel.
Point of order, Councillor Sharkey. I don't think we'll go into that because it's just not relevant to what's being put forward at the start of the meeting. Thank you.
No, but it's okay, everyone. It's okay if everyone else does it to me, but it's not okay if I. That's
no. Well, I think
point of order, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
No, all I'm saying is I think that you're bringing new information into it, which you haven't spoken about at the start of the meeting, the start of the
information collected through the debate. But this is something that we should be proud of as a collective group. I'm not too sure why councillors have chosen to go on this way tonight, but this is a good decision by us as a collective sum. We're not in debate on this item.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Okay, councillors, we have a motion in front of us. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Rowe, I can't see your hand go up. I'm not sure. Are you voting for or against? Sorry, you're on mute, Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, no, I was voting.
Okay, I'll just ask for hands up again. All those for the motion? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 9, petitions. We have none. Item 10, urgent business, nil. Item 10, confidential reports for decision. There are confidential items for consideration tonight. I now ask members of the gallery to leave the meeting so the meeting can move into closed session. Can I have a councillor to move and second the resolution to move into a closed session? Councillor Rowe is moving it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Getson.